Ukraine and Russia only ends one way. It doesn't matter how it started, only matters how it ends. Mark of the beast. Cashless, technocratic one-world currency system. You cannot buy or sell anything without. Project Dunbar. This news only just dropped. BlackRock's plan with the BIS and the United Nations to rid the world of cash and create a one-world standard of tracked and traced digital currency in response to the Russia-Ukraine conflict, collapsing the dollar and the US economy as a result. Now, I don't have an axe to grind in this situation beyond my own sovereignty as an American citizen. I'm neither pro-Russia, pro-Ukraine, nor pro-NATO. And for that reason, we will not go into the idea that Putin is either in on this NWO scheme or whether he's fighting against this scheme, because frankly, it's not relevant whether they're dancing together or not, because NATO can just keep taking it as far as they want until the dollar is so destabilized that a global digital currency is the only order out of their chaos. This is their term. Ordo ab chaos. Latin for order out of chaos. Creating the problem, creating the solution. Full control. The Hegelian dialectic. Now, who is BlackRock? BlackRock, as I've discussed in my previous videos, is the controlling shareholder of the entire stock market, with their sister company Vanguard and their asset custody management of State Street. Founded by Larry Fink, who created the Aladdin auto-trading algorithm AI software that runs the stock market and made his holding company the largest in the world. What makes up the BIS is the Fed and central banks, which sounds like, whoa, the Fed, but it's really just 7 people, the Board of Governors. This is the governing body of the Federal Reserve System, 7 members, or governors, nominated by the President and confirmed by the Senate. And wouldn't you know that it's these same BlackRock Vanguard executives that also make up these 7 Feds on the Board of Governors. So it's these 7 people in the central banks which make up the BIS. Now, the term central banks is a loaded term because it's really just places around the world where these banksters keep their money. The royalty that runs these banks are all beholden to these financial groups. It's not the other way around. So the BIS is basically 7 BlackRock Feds and these 63 countries beholden to BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street, all totaling 95% of the world's GDP. BlackRock alone has 20% of the world's GDP by itself, just to put that in perspective. That's more than what the US is bringing to the table. Now we know who the BIS is. The BIS has just announced they have 2 prototype global digital platforms being introduced to the United Nations, which is the IMF. They've only revealed one. Now, the same week that the BIS revealed their platforms, Tom Finks, BlackRock, sent a letter to all his CEOs on the world stage explaining a need for a global digital payment system to arise from the Russia-Ukraine crisis. Tom Finks was the creator of the Aladdin software that proved efficient in guiding the US economy through the bailout of the 2008-2009 stock market and housing market, deciding who received a bailout and who didn't. A crisis which him and the Lehman Brothers financial group helped to create. BlackRock's Aladdin guided the entire world economy during the scandemic, as well as deciding who received the money from the $2.5 trillion CARES Act, almost all of it going to foreign countries, making BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street the top asset/custody managers in the whole world and controlling shareholder of almost the entire stock market in the process. Now, anyone can create a crypto platform. That's nothing new. Now, why is this significant? This is where the rabbit hole begins. Without the blessing of the United Nations, which is the IMF and its Basel Accords, crypto cannot be recognized as official currency, therefore would remain partially regulated, unregulated, decentralized. They're looking to change this. So far, the BIS, controlled by BlackRock, has only introduced one of these prototype platforms, comprised only of countries beholden to China: Reserve Bank of Australia, Central Bank of Malaysia, Monetary Authority of Singapore, and South African Reserve Bank. When the time is right, when inflation is through the roof, when the world's supply chain is sufficiently broke down, mind you that BlackRock and Vanguard fundamentally control the world's economy by proxy, that Tom Finks will then, and only then, introduce BIS's other platform when the world is begging for relief, demanding order out of the chaos. Ordo ab chaos. This second platform will be co-signed by the Windsors, House of Saud, and the remaining BIS countries, whose money is all handled by BlackRock anyways, to give the illusion of choice, all of which tracked and traced. You can either keep your money in the Chi-Com dark market crypto platform, or the more reputable world market that will set the new standard of what everything is now worth in their new world ordo. You can stick with your hyperinflated dollar if you want to, or you could trade it in for some NWO bucks, get some more bang for your buck. With the introduction of easy pay and cash free, people are being conditioned to get things cheaper or easier using digital currency. Now, cash is still king, but they're trying to phase it out, making it more of an inconvenience. They are trying to change the standard. Now, when it comes to global economy standards, it's established and compartmentalized in two ways. The BIS, which is these 7 Fed bankster execs and their central bankster buddies, working with the IMF, which is the United Nations. The IMF is a supervisory committee that sets whatever monetary parameters that the BIS banksters agree to. These regulation agreements are then established by the United Nations with something called the Basel Accords. These accords establish the monetary system on the world stage. These Basel Accords, established jointly by the UN and our Fed, being spearheaded by 7 BlackRock executives and their central bankster buddies, whose money they manage, is what hangs in the balance of another Basel Accord being created that would ultimately only benefit them and their interests. This all being in response to a conflict arising from foreign policy created by think tanks comprised of these same executives. Is this the future you want? Tracked, traced, forever on the grid short of going back to barter and trading? No way to buy or sell or provide for your family without a digital wallet. A digital wallet out of your control could be shut off at any time.